So the American Enterprise Institute, I would also add that in that period where I briefed them about corruption, if you flip to the next slide, those are just some quotes, and you can peruse them as you like. General Leonard Wood, who during the Spanish-American War expressed frustration about the level of corruption committed by Americans, and he very eloquently and honorably offered his resignation if that matter was not to be addressed properly. The second quote is from Ambassador Ellsworth Bunker, who, as most of the people in this room who are older than myself, know that in 1972 he essentially called upon the administration at that time to attack corruption vigorously, as he saw it as the essence of our failure in Iraq, our failure to enhance governing capacity in South Vietnam. And the third quote is from the current Special Inspector General for Iraqi Reconstruction named Stuart Bowen, who has perpetually stated that corruption is causing the insurgency, is fomenting the civil war. Next slide. That was just in my analysis of the degree to which corruption was being studied by our scholars, our leaders at the highest level. The Iraq Study Group only in two places, and this is alluded to in the op-ed in the New York Times from January '07, only in two places did they talk about corruption. I mean, they basically played lip service to corruption. And that's probably because when you follow the crumb trail with respect to corruption, Iraqi corruption, it leads to American corruption. And investigating American corruption leads to the negligence, mismanagement, incompetence, dereliction of duty of quite a few generals and colonels who have served and still serve. Next slide, please. In that briefing at AEI, I devised with my father, who's been an international economist and a strategist for the better part of his life, what's called the problem tree. And in this problem tree, I won't go into the full explanation of it, but one of the root causes for the instability in Iraq, as you can see from the bottom, is corruption. And if you follow that at your leisure, between corruption and an inadequate strategy leads to other issues, which leads to instability in Iraq, which ultimately leads to coalition forces and Iraqi security forces incapable of stabilizing Iraq and enhancing governing capacity, which in essence means failure. Let's see what the next slide is. The GAO report, one of the lies perpetrated by, and some of this will go into testimony that I'll give on Sunday, but some of the lies and mistruths perpetrated by the generals, colonels, and diplomats in Iraq for the better part of 5-6 years has been this: we have X amount of Iraqi security forces trained and equipped. And as was previously spoken, as is known by all, we have 160,000 troops there now, and we had less just a year ago basically a proxy army made up of contractors was developed, contrived by Donald Rumsfeld and the administration, because as I see it, in the prelude to the war, it was seemingly unpalatable to the American public to send what Eric Shinseki had deemed what was necessary to accomplish the mission, meaning 300,000 to 500,000 troops. So they dismissed him. He retired, and since they have been consistently incorporating troop numbers, Iraqi security forces troop numbers that are fallacious. As an advisory team leader in Iraq, which was one of my many roles, and again, this goes back to that article from the January New York Times article, 30 to 50% of Iraqi security forces on the payrolls are ghosts. They don't exist. And they don't exist for a number of reasons, because the cronies at the top of the Iraqi government see that as a means of securing considerable sums of money in the forms of salaries of hundreds of thousands of bogus soldiers. And of course, those ghost soldiers and the salaries have undoubtedly gone toward ethnic, tribal, sectarian agendas, which has contributed to the perpetuation of the Civil War. Now, going on from that, in Stuart Bowen, the Special Inspector in General of Iraqi Reconstruction's most recent quarterly report in the January of '08, he mentions that Maliki has dubbed 2008 the year of reconstruction and anti-corruption. Well, funny thing about that, this is 2008. Also of note, within the SIGER's report from January 2008, it reiterates previous reports by SIGER that Parsons and other American contractors, Bechtel, North Star, et cetera, which have been written about extensively in various news mediums, that of $500 million given in U.S. taxpayer dollars given to Parsons for buildings, health, and education sectors, only 3 of 11 construction projects have been completed, and 141 primary health care centers to the tune of 186 million American taxpayer dollars were not built. Now they conveniently talk about how security conditions were, made it unfeasible for them to construct these contracts that they were asked to do. But the fact of the matter is that that's a lie. There were Americans on many of these sites and private contractors, security contractors protecting them. And Parsons and all of these organizations have yet to be held accountable. And that is largely due to the fact that it's against the administration's interest to hold them accountable because they are members of their constituency. I've noticed that I have 2 minutes left, and I'm going to go quick with probably the most important document that I have here.